You're alone in your apartment working through a problem and suddenly you hear yourself say out loud, "Okay, so if I move this here, then that should work." Or then you freeze. Did I just talk to myself? Am I losing it? Here's what nobody tells you, that voice you just heard, the one coming out of your own mouth when no one else is around, might actually be one of the most sophisticated cognitive tools your brain possesses. Stay with me, because what science reveals about people who talk to themselves out loud will completely change how you see that habit. And spoiler alert, it has way more to do with genius than madness. Let's address the elephant in the room. We've all been conditioned to think that talking to yourself is weird, maybe even a red flag for mental instability. You see it in movies. The unhinged character muttering to themselves. The stereotype is deeply embedded, but here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. Some of the most brilliant, high-functioning people throughout history were chronic self-talkers. Albert Einstein reportedly had full conversations with himself while working through physics problems. The stigma exists, but the science tells a completely different story. Let's start with the developmental psychology. Lev Vygotsky, a Russian psychologist from the early 20th century, studied how children learn. He discovered something fascinating. Kids talk to themselves constantly while playing or solving problems. They're not crazy, they're learning. Vygotsky called this private speech, and he argued it's essential for cognitive development. What most people don't realize is that this process doesn't stop in childhood. Adults still do it, we've just been shamed into doing it silently or hiding it. But when you talk to yourself out loud, you're actually engaging a more powerful version of that same developmental tool. Here's where the neuroscience gets interesting. When you vocalize your thoughts, you're not just thinking, you're activating multiple brain systems simultaneously. You're engaging your motor cortex to produce speech, your auditory cortex to hear it, and your prefrontal cortex to process the meaning. Gary Lupien, a cognitive psychologist at the University of Wisconsin, ran studies showing that people who talk to themselves while searching for objects find them faster. The act of saying, "Where are my keys?" out loud actually helps your brain focus and filter relevant information. It's like turning up the volume on your attention system. But wait, it gets even better. Talking to yourself isn't just about focus, it's about emotional regulation. Ethan Kross, a psychologist at the University of Michigan, spent years studying something he calls self-distancing. When you're overwhelmed by emotion, when anxiety is crushing you, when you're spiraling, talking to yourself in the third person creates psychological distance from the problem. Instead of saying, "I'm so stressed," you say your own name. "John, you've handled harder things than this." Kross found that this simple linguistic shift activates the same brain regions you use when giving advice to a friend. You literally become your own therapist. Children actually do this naturally. It's called the Batman effect. Kids perform better on difficult tasks when they refer to themselves as their favorite character. Is Batman working hard? It works because it creates distance between the emotional self and the problem-solving self. Now here's the part that explains why so many creative people and deep thinkers talk to themselves. Language doesn't just express thought, language shapes thought. When you externalize an idea by speaking it, you're forcing your brain to organize abstract concepts into linear, structured sentences. That process of translation from internal chaos to external coherence is where clarity emerges. Writers, programmers, mathematicians, they all report talking through problems out loud. They're not performing for an audience. They're using vocalization as a cognitive scaffold. Charles Fernyhough, a psychologist who studies inner speech, explains that talking to yourself out loud is like thinking in high definition. Your internal dialogue is fast and messy. Speaking forces you to slow down and articulate precisely, but here's where we need to be honest and clear. There is a difference between functional self-talk and symptoms of mental health conditions. Healthy self-talk is purposeful. You're working through a problem, regulating emotion, or organizing thoughts. Clinical concerns arise when self-talk becomes involuntary, distressing, or disconnected from reality. Hearing voices that feel external, that command you to do things that you can't control, that's different. That's potentially a symptom of conditions like schizophrenia or severe trauma-related disorders. The key distinction is agency and function. If you're choosing to talk yourself through a task and it helps, that's adaptive. If voices are intruding against your will and causing distress, that warrants professional support. Both experiences are real, but they're psychologically distinct. So why do some people talk to themselves more than others? It often comes down to how you process information. People with higher working memory loads, people juggling complex tasks, people who think in words rather than images, they tend to vocalize more. Introverts often report more self-talk because they process internally before sharing externally. They're essentially rehearsing and refining ideas in private. There's also a cultural component. Some cultures normalize talking to yourself, even encourage it. Others pathologize it. But across cultures, researchers find the same pattern. Self-talk correlates with better task performance, emotional control, and cognitive flexibility. Here's what this all means. If you talk to yourself out loud, you're not slipping into madness, you're engaging in a cognitively sophisticated behavior that enhances your brain's executive function. You're externalizing your thought process to gain clarity. You're regulating your emotions by creating psychological distance. You're doing what Einstein, what countless innovators and thinkers have done. You're thinking out loud because sometimes the best conversation partner is yourself. The next time you catch yourself narrating your grocery list or debating which route to take or talking yourself through a stressful moment, don't cringe. Don't look around to see if anyone heard. Recognize it for what it is. A sign that your brain is working exactly as it should, maybe even better than most. If this made sense to you, you'll probably love learning more about the human mind by clicking on one of the videos appearing on the screen. Click to find out more. Think.